Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Car Reports podcast. Today we are joined with our host. I am Everett Stevenson, here with my other co-host.
Hello, everybody. My name is Malik Foster, another co-host for the Car Reports podcast.
Hey, everybody, and I'm your third co-host. I am Samantha Adams, and just like every week, we come with another great topic. This is something we touched on before one of our previous episodes, but some things have changed, advanced, and grown since then. And so today, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be discussing the ChatGPT and AI, which is pretty much artificial intelligence, and its impact on the job market. So, a lot of times when you think about artificial intelligence, you think about that movie, right? Like robots out there running stuff and doing things, and then they kind of become real, and then they attack the world, and Will Smith has to save the earth, right? So we're not talking about to that degree where the robots are running the world, but we are talking about it in terms of robots doing jobs that people normally do, what that looks like for our economy, in which industries in which these things are happening. It's happening quickly too, right? So we talked about this probably about, I want to say about a year and a half ago, probably about a year and a half ago. And at the time we were talking about the automation of Ubers and self-driving cars, not really like Tesla, but more like this for real, nobody in the driver's seat at all, right? And we talked about how just to recap, talked about how the car, there were problems with it, glitches, and when those machines glitch, how dangerous it could be, right? Like the car ran over and killed somebody or something like that in New York. Or some of the impacts on jobs, as far as cashiers are concerned, because some of y'all may see in the cities and states that y'all live in that aside from the fact that there's more availability for you to be able to do self-checkout, they've been talking about having automated or artificial intelligence robots or whatever to check you out at the grocery store. So what do you guys want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say this advancement of ChatGPT is kind of like a new trendy phenomenon where a lot of people are using it and integrating it into their business. So essentially, this is definitely going to have a big impact on business owners, even in our legal profession, right? They're saying one of the top 10 jobs via Business Insider is paralegals and legal assistants and assistants. So professionals such as accountants, lawyers, other business owners, the assistant jobs may be going away because you can have some prompts. Definitely if you're a small business, right, you can do away with some assistants, right? Cut your overhead down. If you free up some of your time by having some prompts and stuff like that. They're saying it may affect accountants. I'm not too sure about that. I think it needs to be a more advancement in technology. They're also mentioning that it's the advancement in AI could affect lawyers, but obviously you're not going to have AI represent you in courts. So until it gets to that point, no. Will it affect transactional attorneys? Maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, people, when it comes to their intimate personal life, which lawyers definitely work with intimate details and things of that nature and very confidential personal information, people are going to want to work with people and not robots. But I do foresee customer service being hit really big. It's already being hit big because when you're chatting with a customer service, the chat feature, they used to actually hire people to chat with you, but now it might be a robot, right? That will definitely help. Of course, I think you'll still have a little bit of human interaction with customer service because you still have to develop the issues that you could foresee. So you might have to have a few customer service representatives handle calls, but you'll definitely probably be able to cut that workforce tremendously. So customer service jobs will definitely be hit. Text and coding and stuff like that can be programmed. You might just have one programmer instead of 10, for example. So I see a lot of job cuts because they were also talking about Walmart, right? We all know Walmart here in the United States. Walmart, they tend to not cut, but make their stores more than 1/4 of their stores, about 26% of their stores, fully automated by 2026. So I guess they're going to slowly roll it in. So they have expectations of cutting their workforce tremendously, because I've already seen like videos of them with the robots. I believe in China or even the US somewhere, I think. But anyway, basically they were experimenting with robots valet parking for people. You park your car somewhere, and then the robots will come and get it. So I don't know how it's gonna work. Maybe the price will go up since there's no tips or something, but it'll cut the cost for the company. They won't have to do payroll or worry about people's hours and all of the benefits and all of that, labor laws and stuff like that. So like manual laborers, people who have to lift stuff, put stuff in different places, those type of jobs will definitely take the biggest hit. So but I think there's a benefit to this too. And the benefit is, for the business owners, right? On the business owner side of things, you can cut your overhead, cut your costs, get things done more efficiently, quickly, stuff like that. So I think there's definitely a lot of benefits. You want to say something?
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys took it and spoke on a couple different things. One in particular, I feel like one of the things that we can see with AI and some of its benefits is the advancement that it have, like you said, in the service industries in particular. Um, Whereas before, you might have someone who might need to process data and go through things, make PowerPoint presentations and reports for clients. They now have, like I think Microsoft introduced a AI version where you kind of can give the subject in some senses, you don't even necessarily even have to give it the data, but with some of them, if you give them the information that they're looking for, give it like a little narrative, and then hit the button, it blows out a whole PowerPoint presentation with spreadsheets and decks and things of that nature that really kind of affect the different ways that people have been able to present information. I think that's one thing that's definitely going to help. One of the things that we've seen even within our industry of working with here on the podcast is that there's an ability for people to be able to condense information and to allow it to come in a more palatable format. We've seen with the uprises of things like reels and I guess originally like the vines and then the reels and shorts on Instagram, or excuse me, YouTube. We've seen how a lot of platforms are looking to kind of condense information into a little more shorter kind of snippets. And there are programs out here now who can take longer formatted speeches and things and can convert them over into smaller, 30-second, little highlight reels, if you will. So those type of things are advancements that we've seen that's happening within the industry. And a more notable one, and one that I think that kind of can present a lot of trouble, would be the ones that work with the voice AI. There's been a rise, and we've seen a lot of people playing with them and having, different artists perform music from other artists. So, they had like maybe the Drake doing the Ice Spice song, or, the Weeknd covering a Michael Jackson song, Kanye just either rapping straight up or, rapping off of a Drake song, something like that. So we've seen people take maybe voice samples or others and use that to create music for themselves. I think that's a little bit more troubling, especially for individuals like ourselves who are here, who produce content on a regular, who are often talking for long periods of times every week. And so we've probably said lots of different words, and there's lots of different ways that they could probably take that. And now, who knows? You know, they can have recordings of our voices and saying things. You know what I mean? That's one thing that I think could be problematic in the future. But you know, at the same time, I think this is all of what kind of comes with the game. It kind of reminds me of the movie back in the day, where where I forgot the exact name of it, but where they are like trying to fight criminals though, and it was like based on, you know, if you had the propensity to make this type of crime, they were locking you up even before the crime committed, if you will. It's not to say that this is the same exact thing, but it's just speaking to how, you know, AI and advancements in certain things and predictability and algorithms and certain things aren't necessarily always going to be a positive thing. So like I said, you know, it's great to see. We mentioned earlier too, Chat GBT, and one of the things that we thought that was interesting is there's a video out of some students who have created, like, if you will, we've been seeing like the glasses have been a big thing with augmented reality, as well as kind of combining AI. I think there's a video of a guy on an interview, and the interviewer was asking him questions, and this person didn't necessarily have all of the credentials per se for the job, but once the question was asked, the glasses could hear the question, read the question, and then give him like a prompt, if you will, from inside the glasses that he could kind of respond. And it was seamless. Like, you know what I'm saying? The question was asked, then he had the prompt with the answers to it automatically. So it's almost like it took the prep work out. Well, you know, we come up in our time and age where you used to have to research a company. You needed to look to see what they did for that position. You wanted to know exactly what you needed to offer, how you had skill sets that worked for that position, and then also, you know, questions that you might want to ask for them. Whereas here, you could just show up and just have the glasses and it will go ahead and speak for you, you know what I mean, or prompt answers for you. So those are like type of advancements in which, you know, the artificial intelligence has been able to help people. Not to mention we didn't go into schoolwork. One of the things that we've seen too as well is how AI has helped people. I remember there was a time where they used to have a app, excuse me, where you could take a picture of a math question and then it would solve it for you, like, you know what I'm saying? And so that was one thing that they had early on. And then, you know what I'm saying, now they have other little ways in which people are using it to, like you said, either produce papers, to do storylines, things of that nature. So there's been tons of advancements. I forgot there's also another one in particular that worked with photography. One of them that I went to mention also looked at that I saw that was recently being used. One was the kind of like cartoon character imagery. I think a while back, a lot of people had those images of, you know, like the cartoon characters, if you will, kind of like airbrush type images of themselves. And then we've seen other advancements that came on. There's one recently I was told where you can get like 100 photos for like $17. You upload like 6 or 7 photos of yourself and you get different headshots. It might be you of action, you in the background, you know, out, you know, doing whatever. And there's just different little headshots. Some of them look like a lot of the individuals. Some of them didn't necessarily look just like, it's very much like the individuals. But these are also ways that we're seeing that this technology has been used to maybe disrupt markets. So instead of people going to go pay for a headshot, now individuals are able to do it, you know, that's way. Instead of excuse me, maybe instead of individuals necessarily going ahead and moving forward with, say, maybe even getting photographers for, say, an event or things of that nature, they may have maybe little templates and they can just kind of plug and play and put people in those, put photos of people in those areas, and it'll look as though it'll look as though, you know, this was like taken lively or taken in a certain area. So yeah, I'm optimistic about some of the things that can come about it, but I'm also cautious, you know what I'm saying, and some of the things that can change as well.
Yeah, I do think that with regards to it, in theory, I think that it's a good idea, but it's susceptible to so much negative stuff, right? Like, for example, hacking or glitches. Like we talked about before when we were talking about the automation of the Uber car, it was going good until a car ran somebody over and killed them, right? Or when I talk about hacking, so our system here in America is not, I'm not gonna say it's bad, but you hear about so much hacking, right? Just this morning, I'm willing to bet y'all, if you guys have Credit Karma, right? You go check your Credit Karma right now, it's gonna show that you're dead and you have a 0 credit score on your Equifax score. That happened this morning. Because I was on my Credit Karma yesterday, and then I got a notification. No, I went on Facebook today and found, and somebody was like, yeah, you guys check. And I looked and I have no score for Equifax on my Credit Karma, but I have an account with Equifax. So I went and checked and I was able to see it. And so there's that, there's the hacking with that, like they even hack stores. Like, remember when there was that huge hack at Target and then another one at Home Depot? Like, we're constantly hearing about all these different agencies that are hacking, whether they be foreign or, especially if they're foreign. That's what makes it scary, right? Because you have these foreign agencies that are hacking into our systems and into this, and are able to hack into artificial intelligence. It can become incredibly dangerous, not just, physically dangerous, but also financially. So, there's that aspect of it. Another thing that I'm curious about, a lot of these jobs require some form of artistic finesse, right? So like when Malik was talking about lawyers, for example, right? He's a transactional lawyer, I'm a litigator. But when he goes to draft his contracts, he could make them boilerplate, but we learn in law school that's really not always the best way to go, because everybody's business and requirements are going to be different, and you have to be able to make sure that your client is protected appropriately. And those boilerplates don't always do the job, right? But also too, me as a litigator, I can sit down and have a conversation with somebody and they tell me something. This just happened to me the other day, right? I had a witness, wasn't my witness, it was a state's witness because I'm a defense attorney. State's witness, I spoke to the witness. I asked the witness what happened. They told me A happened. That witness got on the stand and I asked them expecting to hear everything that they said, A. And they said A happened plus B happened. Them telling me about plus B was helpful to my case. But if I'm just being very rudimentary, very mechanical, like 1 + 1 = 2, like there's no artistic finesse to that. Like you have to be able to pivot. And these computers aren't necessarily always able to pivot in that way because they don't necessarily have that artistic aspect to the way that the computer, quote unquote, thinks, right? And so I think that it's also important to recognize that there has to be some sort of artistic finesse. Like even if you go back and watch Star Wars, R2-D2 couldn't, go, he could only go but so far because they didn't have the ability to feel, or, things like that. So I think that it's also important to recognize like everything that functions in this world is not going to be just robotic, right? As an attorney, I wouldn't want my paralegal to be a machine, because I want to be able to say to my paralegal, see how you can maneuver these arguments, or to my law clerk, see what you can come up with as it relates to this. You see what I'm saying? And then try to formulate something. And as it relates to, so that's like hacking, glitches, right? Now I already talked about the Uber stuff, but I mean, glitches happen, right? They're not necessarily, there's not necessarily nefarious or malicious intent behind them, but it happens, right? And so you have to be able to pivot. So what do you do when you go to the grocery store? You don't have any food in your house. You got kids crying, they're hungry, they want their fruit snacks or whatever, and the system goes down. What do you do, right? How are you feeding your kids? Like you can't just go on over to the next register where there's a person and they can do things manually, right? I worked in retail for 8 years and I remember when our computer system would go down, we would have to do stuff the old school way, like take them credit card things and put it in that little black contraption with the carbon copy paper and you know what I'm saying? Just so we made sure we had a copy of that person's card, you know, double checking IDs, things like that. You know, yeah, a machine may be able to double check an ID, but what if it's a real ID, but the person ain't it? You know what I'm saying? Like, especially too, depending on who's, and you guys have to remember, computers are only as smart as the people that put the information in them, right? And if these people don't have the foresight to be able to, you know, deter or navigate the bad aspects of it, because these things are going to happen. Glitches are going to happen. That's gonna happen. Like, anybody that's ever had a phone, a computer, a tablet, or anything has had a situation where it got glitchy, whether it been because the phone itself was being glitchy or the application, the information, the data, whatever was in there, something got messed up. You go to answer your phone, it's not clicking on, or you know what I mean? Your thing isn't scrolling properly, or whatever the case may be. Those things are gonna happen. And also too, as it relates to the United States and our relationship globally with all these other countries, there are countries that hate our guts. Like, we're just gonna call a spade a spade. There are countries that hate our guts, they do not want to see us win, so they will do what they can so that we lose. And if everything, we put all of our eggs in the AI basket, how do you flourish if it gets hacked?
Well, it's something that you have made a mention to, and I think this is a letter that can be encouraging to some. And it's like you said, the artistic finesse, I think is how you described it. But I also feel like we can call it on the gut feeling. Recently, I was able to have the good fortune to watch the Air movie, which, you know, for those who may not be familiar, just kind of chronicled how Nike pretty much was able to sell Michael Jordan on their brand when they were trying to build up that department and going against other brands who already were a little bit more established in the NBA. And one of the things that stood out was there are two parts. There's a part in which there's the guy who spoke about taking a chance one time, and he went out and did something, and he was working an event, and he heard a guy do a speech. And the speech that he heard the guy do, it was like, you know, like he switched it up, like in the middle of, I guess, like he said he heard a guy do a speech. Afterwards, he got a chance to walk up to the guy and tell him, like, you know, hey, I really thought your speech was great, da 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 da. And in return, the dude gave him a copy of the speech. He was like, when he went down and he looked at the speech, he was like, I was really looking for like a major part of the speech that he had, but it wasn't in the like manuscript. And then the dude was like, well, what was it? He was like, he started second about how he had a dream. You know what I'm saying? And like, he was like, but that wasn't on the script. And so like, he has like original copy of the I Have a Dream speech, I guess, without the parts about some of the dream that Martin had. And what he said was he could tell that Martin looked in the crowd and realized that he needed to pivot in order to sell what he needed to sell. And that's something that you can't get from AI per se. AI isn't going to be able to necessarily look at the crowd and per se see. And I mean, I'm sure they maybe can look to see if certain facial structures are looking like, you know what I'm saying, certain eye contact may be showing if people are engaged with you. But I think there's a different feeling that you get when you know people and you're talking to someone, and you can tell if they're feeling what you're saying, if they're understanding what you're saying, if they're following what you're saying versus they're not. And that's something that you're born with, right? That gut instinct. And that came again in the movie where they're doing the actual pitch. And there's this video that they're playing, and then he kind of cuts and he just goes into his speech and telling them, like, listen, this is why you need this brand. This is why you want to be with us. No one else is going to rock with you like that. No one else believes in you like that. No one else is going to be willing to go out and push the line as far as they are. No one else is going to brand you like we're going to brand you. They're either going to put you in the stable with everyone else, but you're not like everyone else. You know what I'm saying? He had a really good speech that he gave them, and he was basically telling them, you know, like, listen, we're going to put you on a pedestal, and every day you're going to have to live up to that pedestal. You're going to have to be great. And they're going to be the thing that's going to make it is like, you're going to work to be great. And this is just the speech part, but he was just like, you're going to work to be great. People are going to tear you down, but every day you got to still work to try to be better than that. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be a lot of pressure on you to continue to do those things. But we believe in you. We think that you're the one to carry all of that. We think that you can handle all of those things. That wasn't something that they planned. That was just him coming from the heart. And I think, one thing about it is, AI can say a lot of things that sounds good, but there's a difference when you could tell somebody who's talking from what they believe and what they feel. And even if they don't necessarily know it to be true, but if they believe it to be true, we've all known, I'm sure everyone here can speak to, the power of manifesting, the power of saying something where it doesn't logically even make sense to even think it, but you have that thought and you can believe and will it into reality. I don't believe that, the AI will have those capabilities to do things like that. I don't think that, because it's so used to just, like you said, programming. It's used to, everything is logical, that it can't see the things outside of just logic. And sometimes in life, some of the greatest things come outside of your normal logic. You have to be, you almost have to have like that supernatural feeling that lets you know, like, hey, you know what? This doesn't make sense, but I think that this is the best thing for me right now. You know what I'm saying? And once we kind of get those things on the board, that's when I think everything kind of, can really show where AI won't have a chance to compete with man in that regard.
Yeah, I was thinking like
AI can't feel energy. You know what I mean? It just can't.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing that I think is positive for people, even though there's going to be a big impact on jobs, I think it's going to help people elevate because, throughout human history, people have adapted and evolved to the technology, modern technology. So I just think, it'll be higher level of skill, higher level of thinking. I think we're going to evolve intellectually. And if you don't, you're just going to get left behind. But I do think on the negative side of things, I think the gap between people who have stuff and don't have is going to widen even more than it already is. You know how in the 90s it was a bigger middle class. I think that's going to disappear. And, it's either you have stuff or you don't have. I think the middle class is going to be very shrinking. It's going to be really shrinking and end up being non-existent because it's like if you don't adapt to the technology, you're going to get left behind. I think we're a whiles away from that, but it's definitely coming. It's incoming. Right, in the next 10, 15, 20 years is definitely incoming on that situation. So I think that's a good part though. Like people will have to be forced to step their game up, whether it's in business or acquiring the skills and knowledge, maybe in AI, maybe in different sectors where, you just can't automate stuff and robots and stuff like that. Because there's still industries like you said, Sam, with the driving, you're still going to need transportation. You're still going to need farmers and stuff. Like, yeah, you might have to implement the technology, but you're still going to need people over that kind of stuff, food, water, shelter. You're still going to need people. Our basic necessities still needs human capital, human labor, essentially. So you can't just automate everything. Yeah, you can have some automated systems, but people are going to have to run those systems. So it's going to create a whole new industry of people running those systems and fixing and working on those systems and developing new systems. So I think it's going to push us further intellectually, So they're already working on energy stuff. They're trying to recreate the, I think it's the fusion or fission. I always get those mixed up, but like, the process where, they're trying to recreate like the power of the sun and harness that so we can have basically no issues. Yeah, I think it's fission. I believe it is. Yeah, I think it's nuclear fission, not fusion, because I think we have the fusion, but fission, we can't sustain it. So they're trying to sustain that. But if they master that, that would help solve a lot of our energy problems across the world, really. So I think it's a beautiful thing, technology. Maybe AI can help in that aspect. But like you said, Sam, it's only as smart as what you program into it. Maybe it can adapt and evolve. If you're able to program it to adapt and evolve and correct, maybe then it can advance, but you still have to implement those prompts in there and that coding and all of that stuff that takes place in that technology. So it's a
what's
beautiful.
tough about that too. Sorry, what's tough about that too is everybody's not into coding, right? Like that's not the industry for everybody. And so when you're talking about the variety in the employment industry, you know what I'm saying? And where people plan on going with that, you got to remember that like everybody isn't going to be a computer program. Everybody doesn't understand how zeros and ones work. And one of the other things that I think was interesting that you touched on, Malik, was talking about the pretty much an infotech gap, right? And excuse me, the thing about that gap that I think is important is that third world countries will typically be left behind. And so, because their technology isn't as high as ours or China or, you know what I'm saying? Or other countries as some of its counterparts.
It's interesting you say that, Sam. Sorry to cut you off. I feel like, with third world countries, like a lot of them, like I feel like they're just going to turn into like, the factories, the producing nations that are going to produce the goods that the world needs. Like, hey, we need this made. Your country, has that labor. Y'all need the money. Here's the jobs. We're going to provide y'all with the AI robots to help. And, we're going to extract resources. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Because China's going to need stuff, and China's a world power. It's perceived like they projected to overtake United States as the leading global power in the world. So they're going to need stuff. They got a lot of people, so they're going to look to Africa and other Asian countries to extract.
I don't know, because you got to remember their labor laws are way different over there. They have child labor and all that other kind of stuff going on. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what, but they, even with that, still they still have an issue with it because their population and what they'll need, right? So they're gonna go, they're buying up different ports, different things like that. I know we're kind of getting a little off topic here with the AI technology, but let me take back in. Essentially, like, due to the AI technology, we still are going to need some fundamental stuff, and I think those lower end countries are going to be pushed to become like those factory nations, those industrial industries that require the labor. Like if you're doing any mining or drilling, it's going to require people using those machines to extrapolate the resources that are used in some of these technologies, especially that's in Africa and South America and other countries. Other regions.
So what I was going to say is one of the downfalls to those third world countries is that like that technology could be used to help them. Do you see what I'm saying? Like help clean their water, help bring electricity, like basic things that we take for granted here in the United States. You know what I'm saying? And I think that if you do that, you utilize that to elevate these third world countries that struggle in those areas. I'm not saying they have to become super industrialized or anything like that, but just literally basic clean water and electricity. I think just thinking about it from that standpoint, I think, like I said in the beginning, just to kind of conclude, because I don't want to just run off into, this long side tangent. AI in theory, I think is a good idea, right? For all of the benefits and reasons that you guys stated. But I think that the cons are big cons. Like, I don't know if there are more of them, but I know that they are heavy. And I think that, society needs to really reevaluate those cons at a huge level, because I think that the negative impact that they can have can far supersede the benefits if not handled correctly. So, AI, I think it's cool and all that, but I do definitely think they need to reevaluate that.
I'll come back with my final thoughts as well on it. And saying that, while I do appreciate the advancement that AI has, I think it's going to help us to be able to do things a lot faster, to get through work a lot easier, to, allow for maybe smaller businesses to be able to compete on a more larger scale because they can provide services and value at a skilled rate that they probably wouldn't have been able to do before. those are some of the best advancements with it. I also think that it could also help cut down on the cost of certain services. Because like you said, there's even websites, there's excuse me, AI sites that can create websites. And we know not too long ago, getting a website created was a very challenging thing. You know what I'm saying? Either you had to know how to code in Adobe or know how to code in some other type of format in order to create the websites. So now, you could just tell a website or plug into a computer what you want them to, make a website for. It'll find resources for you. It'll find, quotes and things of that nature. It'll have links and things of that nature. So, it helps with that because now you can be a small business owner, create this thing, use these tools, and really be able to have a more strengthened team than it would be if you were to have to pay out for every last detail, hire a specialist for every last detail, keep somebody on retainer for every last detail. Now, when AI get to the point where we can have the love, like they said, well, I guess Snapchat tried to do it for a little while where they had the robot and it was recording people and they'll follow you around, kind of like a little drone thing, and it started to take the content. Because I think that's one of the hardest things I think a lot of people have with that is just, Drake said it one time, you can't live and hold the camera at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could record it while you hold, but it's a different thing when people can see you just living and doing, and then the camera's behind you. And a lot of times people don't have the good fortune to have somebody to follow them to record them. So, and that's something that at this moment, we don't see AI being able to produce, right? Like how can AI follow you? You know what I'm saying? And necessarily record those things. So, yeah, those are things where, maybe we'll look to see as a predictive way for some creators to find ways for that to happen for solo creators. But aside from that, though, I think that AI has a lot of positives that it can bring, but like to Sam's point, a lot of negative. I can see it being used in the wrong way to affect a lot of people. Unfortunately, in a harmful way. But I do think that its advancements will help progress the services and the things that we are receiving from a lot of people.
Yep. Yeah, I think AI can, definitely benefit and help. I also think, it's definitely going to hurt a lot of industries and force people to improve their skills and adapt and evolve, like I said earlier. Does anybody else have any conclusionary comments they want to say? Because I'll get into the book of the month here. Okay, guys. I want to get into the book of the month. The book of the month is American Slavery, American Freedom by Edmund S. Morgan. It's a great historical book that goes into Black history, what was going on and transpiring when African Americans were part of the transatlantic slave trade, when they reached the United States, detailing what was going on throughout the colonies and stuff like that, giving you some further insight that, they don't really teach you in public schools. So it was also a winner of the Francis Parkman Prize. I don't know if I mentioned that in our last episode, but I just want to mention that real quick. And then the next thing I want to mention is the Black business, is Big Dave's Cheesesteaks. Let me get the website again. I believe it's Big Dave's Way. Let me confirm that with you guys 1 second here. I believe it is, yeah. So the website is bigdaysway.com. So you can check that website out. Check out some great food. It tastes of Philly and Atlanta. So it's a nice Black-owned business. They have an app, so you can download the app, check them out. Once again, it's Big Dave's Cheesesteaks. Get a little taste of Philly. And then next thing I want us to discuss is the quote, the motivational minute. I got the quote right here on my phone here. Pull it up. Once again, happy Mother's Day, everybody. Who's a mother, has a mother. Y'all have a mother, but happy Mother's Day to the mothers, grandmothers, aunts, cousins. So the quote is, when someone tells you no, you have two choices. You can stop right in your tracks, or you could push forward by raising questions most people would rather not hear, much less discuss, by Jody Picoult. And I felt like, this quote really spoke to me because, you do have your choices in life. I feel like you always have a choice. You can stop what you're doing and decide not to move forward, or you could press forward, ask questions, try to learn, try to grow, try to adapt, try to evolve. And I think this quote really ties into our topic today because, like, yeah, some people in these industries are going to be faced with that tough question of like, all right, this AI is coming. I've been working this job for 10 years. My lifespan is a certain amount of time. The way it's looking, I might be out of work in my working years. So it's like, that's a big hurdle and concern for you. So you're going to have to ask yourself some tough questions. Do I just stop what I'm doing, give up, or do I adapt, evolve, try to grow, try to learn some new skills, and try to elevate myself? So that's why I picked this quote. And I think that's really tying into our topic of discussion today. And that concludes our motivational minute. And thank you guys for tuning in to our podcast today. And thank you guys for, supporting us on Wednesdays too. What's on Wednesdays on 8:30 every week. And, make sure y'all like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. If y'all want us to discuss a certain topic, let us know. We'd be more than appreciative of that. My co-host, y'all want to say anything?
Just, yeah, happy Mother's Day to the moms and mom figures and anybody who has a mom in heaven. I hope that you guys have comfort today because I know days like today can be hard. Other than that, and just so you know, this is going to get posted a week later, so we're not crazy. Today's, in fact, Mother's Day. And so also too, yeah, like Malik said, you have any topics want to be on the show, be sure to let us know. Other than that, our socials are going to be posted at the end. And so go ahead and follow us, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and all of that jazz. Otherwise, we hope you have a great weekend. Great week. Be good to one another. Enjoy the rest of your day as well and the rest of your weekend. Be good to one another. And we will see y'all on Wednesday.
All right, see y'all. Have a good one.
All right, guys.